Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 155, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I am your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And you'll never guess who else is here.
Lotus Prince.
Both of them. It's an infestation.
Thank you for having me here. Also, thank you for having me here.
No thanks, I'd rather not. No thanks, I'd rather not.
I'm hearing double. 4 Lotus Princes.
Double trouble. But goddamn, that's stupid. Yeah, with this week we actually have decided to do an episode on strange action games.
What?
So.
Nobody told me about this. I quit.
I sent it to your mailbox.
Oh.
Everybody got it in blue.
Didn't you get the memo? What's this I'm hearing about those TPS reports?
Yeah, so unusual action games. I wanted to first kind of start off. The reason why I picked this topic, because we were kind of me and a few friends from the Hardcore Gaming 101 sphere. We're kind of talking about like the types of games that were influenced by Hotline Miami. Like we were trying to think of like a good term for what that is.
Okay, that's tough.
So I came up with like acid action.
Fair enough.
Meaning they kind of have trippy. They tend to have trippy visuals and kind of a trippy storyline to go along with their weird physics and things like that. So that's kind of what I said. I think that goes perfectly because that goes along with the acid western genre. I don't know if I've shown you an acid western. In fact, probably the prototypical acid western of El Topo.
That was certainly an experience.
I'd rather play any of the acid action games that we're going to be talking about than watch that movie a second time.
I love the first half of that movie.
First half is great. The second half is not great. It's one of those movies that it's one of those things that you watch academically.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's like I'm glad I watched this because now I have that in my field of experience. But yep. I'm also never going to watch that ever again.
Yep.
Unless somebody really forces me. Stalker's kind of like that, though. I'm much more willing to watch Stalker.
Stalker was long, though.
Yeah, it was long in the tooth. It was, but it was an interesting watch, and
it certainly was.
It was enjoyable, but it just was a little long. It was very what you think Russian enjoyment would be like. It was very melancholy, let's put it that way. And,
that opening scene, which is just like a still shot for like over a minute, and the guy finally gets out of bed. It's like, dude, what a deliberate movie.
I like them trying to go into the DMZ. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
That was a pretty cool part of the movie, and also the end where they're in the laboratory or
that was pretty cool.
Derelict laboratories was pretty cool. But everything getting there is a little tough.
Getting there was an experience. Yeah.
Yeah, getting there is a little tough. But we want to talk about these kind of experiences because like my friend Pedro is the one that's I think is most recent in that type of genre, and I just picked that up on Switch and I love it. I'm not surprised that I love it, but I love it. It's really good.
I so badly would love to watch a really talented player just wreck a level in that game.
So the game also makes it easy to look cool as well.
Sure.
Like you can play it poorly. For sure, but it's also kind of easy to get in the groove and do cool-looking things, like very easily. Like it's so intuitive that it feels like what you intend to do usually happens.
Okay.
So that's what's so cool about that game. I'm really enjoying it. I've only played the first couple screens, but I've been I've been enjoying every moment of it. One thing that I found very difficult, they kind of really did a good job with, was in a lot of games when you're dual wielding, it's very difficult to aim at two separate targets, and they alleviate that very, very well. You could do a split target very, very easily.
So it plays even better than Wet.
Wet is actually a good contender for this.
I really gotta give that game a shot. That game looks hilarious.
Wet is a game that I would say that nobody talks about, and even back then it really wasn't talked about a lot. And but this is a good example of this type of game. I love the soundtrack in that game, especially. It had like a swing soundtrack, like almost like a Stray Cat kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Swing music.
Oh, the JoJo stand. Yeah.
Like like Tom Petty.
Well, he was a JoJo character.
Yeah,
on a stand.
Well,
jeez, not even close.
Thanks. But he's also the progenitor of all of the powers of the entire series. So give the guy a little bit of credit.
Yeah, pretty much. Throw the ripples. Yeah.
Yep. He's the reason why stands exist. So anyway, but I really loved Wet. I had a ton of fun playing it. It's one of those titles that I don't even think you can get it on PC right now. It's not even on Steam. It was a
It's like PS3 360 only, right?
Yeah, and it's like an early Bethesda game. Yeah.
Is that really?
Yeah. It's a Bethesda game from, I think, even before it must have been just after Fallout 3.
Okay.
Or just after Oblivion. Probably just after Oblivion. Yeah. Just to give you for instance, when I search Wet in Steam, I get a lot of hentai games, and Wet Dreams Don't Dry.
Oh, I forgot about that
Suit
one.
Larry.
I can't believe they went with that title. Like, get it? No.
It's a parody of a game that barely anybody played.
Yeah, that was gonna have like episodes, and it was canceled after episode 1. You remember that Swery game? Everyone knows Swery.
I mean,
even Deadly Premonition isn't exactly like common knowledge, and that's probably his most famous game.
The Missing is a cult hit, I would say. Right
now.
Yeah,
his new game, which is, from what I hear, actually quite
poignant,
functional, and effective at what it sets out to do.
This game actually doesn't look too bad. This Wet Dreams Don't Dry. I hate to say it, but it looks like it's well done.
It's a Leisure Suit Larry game.
Yeah, but like plenty of Leisure Suit Larry games are really crap.
It's a PC Leisure Suit Larry game.
Well, I mean, there's that box office bust game that was like
that was
straight
total garbage. Okay, yeah. You got me there.
Yeah, so I mean, this actually looks respectable.
Yeah, it looks like it's trying to go back to form.
Yeah, and it just looks well drawn. Anyway,
actually, I was gonna say, bringing it back to weird action games. I don't know if you have much experience with this, but now that you brought up The Missing, I had heard online, I think it was from a Zero Punctuation review, that The Missing is like what you thought Never Dead would be, but it wasn't. Because with The Missing, isn't The Missing the game where you like get yourself cut up into pieces and then you like throw your body parts to like hit switches and stuff?
I don't know. I actually don't know the mechanics of The Missing.
I think that's how it works, but because in Never Dead, I don't think you can die, but you can get chopped up into a bunch of pieces.
Because you're never dead.
Exactly, and that's actually your curse. But like, but I think you just try to put your body back together. I don't think you like go crazy with the concept of being able to be in multiple places at once. And if The Missing is the game I'm thinking of, then it does.
That kind of reminds me of Blood Will Tell. Like the entire game is about getting your body parts.
Yeah.
Like there are even a couple levels where it's black and white because you need to get your eyes.
That's clever.
That's a PS2 game. But
yeah.
I also wanted to talk about the progenitors of this kind of discussion. Like Hotline Miami was a fucking fantastic game. I love everything about that. Like the mood of that
The
game.
freaking music.
The music is, especially the tracks by Moon, Moon.
Oh my god, yeah.
Moon.
MON, that
Yeah,
spells
that spells
amazing music tracks.
We should tell Stephen King about him.
Yeah.
But no, but Moon, like, listen to this guy's music. It is like it's electronic music that makes you feel filthy somehow. Like
Yeah,
I
there
don't
are
even
certain
know.
tracks that definitely have like a it's going to those like 80s like sleazy movies. So like
Yeah.
there are like sleazy is the word. Like there are tracks where like it's music designed to be played as you kill people, and yet you're still made uncomfortable, and it's not because of the enemies. Although the enemies will fuck you up.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? The music reminds me of like the music. If the location where in the original Terminator, the Tech Noir bar,
Okay.
you know, the Tech Noir dance hall,
Yeah.
if that were a song, like that's what it would be. You know what I mean?
And the game does have, I think, like a techno dance hall. Where you
Yeah,
just kill a bunch of
yeah.
people. But yeah, going back to Moon, go to YouTube and look up Hydrogen, because that track pops.
That's
Hotline Miami 2
probably my
soundtrack
favorite
is,
song in the whole game.
it's way up there. And Hotline Miami 2 soundtrack is freaking insane. I recommend looking up Perturbator songs.
Yeah.
His track Sexualizer is freaking amazing. Although you may want to stick with specifically the Hotline Miami 2 version of Sexualizer, because the original version of the song is potentially not safe for work, because you hear like like and stuff like that, like in the second half of the song, because it's like actual porn samples.
Oh jeez.
It actually kind of works for the song, but I think I prefer the version without them anyway, because I'm just more used to it.
Moon has a few tracks like outside of that are really excellent. There's one called Quixotic that is bumping. I really love that song. I think it's a long song, so I think he just released it as a single.
Okay.
Really, really good stuff.
Speaking of which, by the way, I do really like that both Hotline Miami soundtracks are made by multiple composers. Like you can actually tell, oh, this is probably from that composer when you hear like a new track. It's cool to hear how that works.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Also, those games, despite being very low res, like not literally, it's designed for widescreen and HD and everything, but it's very pixely and everything. Those are some ultra violent games. There's some fucked up stuff in them.
Yeah, I also want to do a shout out to Suda51 Games as well, because he really, if you had to point to anybody who kind of like popularized like weird shit in games like that, like psychedelic shit.
Well, he directly shouted out Hotline Miami and Travis Strikes Again.
Yeah, it's probably him that started people in getting interested in it. There was some stuff that was like here and there kind of stuff, but he really took it as an aesthetic and as a overall pastiche of his career, really.
Yeah.
I in particular, when I think of this particular trend or trope, I guess, I actually think of one of his lesser known titles. I think of his Samurai Champloo game.
Yeah, I played a bit of that at your place one time.
Yeah, I just love the rave that you go into once you've hit enough guys and chained enough guys
kill
together.
Counter combo. Yeah, everything gets all rainbow psychedelic, and your silhouettes killing other silhouettes, and the music's pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah,
it's called, I forgot what it was called, like 123 Star or something with star in it, but it's really catchy.
I love it a lot. I
actually still remember what it sounds like, and I haven't played that game since college.
Yeah, it's just one of those iconic things. It is not a perfect game. In fact, a lot of the games that we are talking about aren't perfect, but they are really, really fun experiences.
That's the whole thing, especially Suda51 games. Like, his games kind of got more and more playable as they were released. Like, Lollipop Chainsaw plays really well. Shadows of the Dam plays really well if you're used to Resident Evil controls, because you may not necessarily be, but Resident Evil 5 controls, Shadows of the Dam plays that way.
Oh
Killer
yeah.
is Dead goes back to just like it's playable, but it's freaking weird. But like his earlier games are just really bizarre to get used to, and there's like, especially with Killer 7 and No More
Killer
Heroes,
7,
there are
yeah.
flaws that seem like intentional. So you're like, huh? But once you play them, you remember them.
That reminds me of that DS game that he made. The Sun. What is that called?
Oh, I know what you mean. Flower, Sun, and
The
Rain.
Flower Sun Raid. Oh my god, that game is intentionally like trolling you the whole time while you're playing it, like with inconveniences.
Well, one thing I heard about the game, and I don't even know if this was a troll, was that there was some quiz question you had to answer that like you can't, like unless you look it up, because it asks you what the legal drinking age is, and 21 is incorrect, and you're like, what? But it's 21. But like it's supposed to be 20 because it's the Japanese legal drinking age. It's like, get out of here,
It wasn't
dude.
localized correctly. It was translated but not localized, right?
That's well, I would have to look into the context, but like that's my assumption.
Yeah. But let me see what else. I mean, I would even kind of throw Trials of the Dragon into this
Oh,
category
that game's
too.
a treasure because like the levels that aren't well, even the levels that are trials levels have you like escaping crazy obstacles and stuff. And I don't mean navigating obstacles like regular trials games. I mean like watch out for the gunfire and stuff like that. So that's really exciting in its own right. And then in a shocking twist, there are some levels where you're off the bike just running around. It's just amazing, and no one knows about it because it was like number one, it's digital only, and it wasn't greatly advertised. And number
Yeah.
two, it's a combination of Trials and Far Cry Blood Dragon, and each side's fan base didn't like the other side.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to play a trial game as a sequel
Trials
to.
fans didn't like it, and Far Cry Blood Dragon fans
Yeah,
didn't like
you
it.
you need to know what it is going in, because if you think you're playing just another Trials game, you're gonna think it's like too over the top and like weird. And if you're thinking you're playing another Far Cry game, it doesn't play anything like Far Cry. It's a Trials game, so you're like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So if you understand what the game is, I think you'll like it. But you gotta know.
I really want to play it because I was a huge fan of the Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. I like Far Cry
And
3 in
it's a
general.
sequel. It's a straight up sequel.
I like Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon to begin with, especially once you get towards the end, you hop onto a Blood Dragon and actually control it after
that's
like fighting
insane.
them for so long, and then you just feel like so goddamn powerful after like not being that like feeling like useless against them for a while.
Yep.
I just love that. I just love that feeling when that kind of stuff happens, and you're
finally
just
get to
like
turn around.
rampaging. You're rampaging through the landscape with that thing.
Yeah, that feels
So
good,
much
man.
fun, and you're like blazing lasers everywhere. You're just
Yep, the blood dragons have laser, not fire breath, laser breath. So they go like, ah, and then just like a laser comes out. Like, what? There's just no way.
So much fun. Let me see here. Another game I would throw into this category that I have not played yet, but we are both pretty acquainted with it. We kind of like followed it a little bit. Ape Out.
Oh yeah, I saw a whole playthrough of that game. That game basically is Hotline Miami, only like it's
Like
melee only.
Melee, yeah. Yeah,
You're an ape.
It even looks like it, and it's published by the same company, right? It's Devolver.
I don't think it is.
Oh, okay. Well, apparently me saying who's made what has been contentious before. So
I'll have to look. I'll have to look at the publisher. I mean, I know it was made by one guy, but the publisher. Oh no, it wasn't made by one guy. It was actually one of the people who made it was Ben
it is
Foddy.
Devolver. It is Devolver.
It is Devolver, but it is Devolver. One of the people who made the game that was Bennett Foddy, which is incredible.
The Quap guy.
No, the getting over it guy.
Well, yeah, and Quap.
He also did Quap. Okay.
Yeah, unless I'm wrong
And-
about that too.
The music in that game is fascinating because I think it's all drums. But what's cool is when you like kill a guy, it does a little cymbal clash. Like so, like as he dies, like, and that's actually how they introduce the credits. It's really cleverly handled.
Yeah, and
So I
Hotline
say all
Miami
drums,
is
but
by
so much more drums.
Devolver Digital as well. So I was correct.
Oh yeah, Hotline Miami. Yeah, I definitely knew about that.
And Katana Zero is another game by them that also has this aesthetic. They've really kind of
And Hotline Milwaukee.
not a joke.
I kind of want to try that.
Apparently, it's the worst game out of the bunch.
It's such a shame because like Hotline Miami is the game among the devolved games that I'm most familiar with. I also want to try out Enter the Gun Dungeon because that name is hilarious.
I'm excited for that. I bought it like immediately when they released it because it was $5.
And it was you got like 1% off, so it was like $4.95 or some really weird number.
I had to get it before the promotion was over.
Yeah.
You know what? We should definitely do a recording of that at some point. I might save myself for that. Whenever we get
That'd
our current project, of course. But we have plans, to stay on target for our current project. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's Devolver's really made a name for themselves for like black and white games, like oddly, and like fever dream games, which which is the kind of stuff that we're.
And even Ape Out is like it's not as psychedelic as Hotline Miami, but
it's pretty psychedelic.
It definitely has a color scheme going on that's like the tropical looking, like I don't know how quite to describe it, but like really bright, like leaning toward white kind of blue. Like it's not sky blue, but like those kinds of like I mean it's basically like Hotline Miami colors, but fewer of them.
Yeah, they're very evident of like old style like movie posters like French like movie posters, especially like European style ones, like simplistic shapes but very eye catching.
Yeah.
Almost like the Pink Panther kind of stuff. Or that's the best way I could describe it. That game looks like a lot of fun too, so I was thinking about buying that.
Ape Out?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on Windows and Switch.
So, let me see here. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about El Shaddai, which is one of the games that you
that game
you did an LP of, right?
Bizarre. I did an LP of that years ago. That game's weird. The aesthetic is just gorgeous. The gameplay gets tedious and repetitive. There's sort of a rock paper scissors mechanic regarding which weapon can beat enemies of holding the other kind of weapon. But you can have like a gimmick where you like kick a weapon out of your hand and then you catch it and you replace your weapon with that one. And each weapon has like a super attack, but it gets really tedious and repetitive, except the bosses are really cool. There's a motorcycle level that's like one of my favorite parts of the game. The cutscenes are gorgeous. There's like an amazing, beautiful color aesthetic throughout the entire game. So I don't know about playing it so much because it kind of wears out its welcome, but it's absolutely beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I always had an interest in it because at the time it had like very unique visuals, and I think it still does.
Yep. It does. Yeah.
It was released by a studio that very much was taking a risk on it, and it did not pay off.
No.
But it was
it's
released
not even
by
like
Ignition,
people thought it was
right?
terrible, but what was it?
It was released by Ignition, if I remember right.
Yeah, well, that was one of those games. It's not like people hated it or anything. It's just kind of like no one really picked up on it.
Yeah, it was one of those games that you didn't sell many copies. It didn't sell through.
Exactly.
But I think it's going to be one of those games that people will look back on and be like, oh man, I really want that.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one of those like, what were weird games among the previous console generation? Let me look them up. Is anyone talking about these? Like, that's going to totally be one of those.
Oh yeah, and it's not a bad game either. Like there are certainly games that are you have to make more.
Yeah, it's
of a
not
case
great,
for.
but it's definitely not bad.
Yeah. Oh.
Speaking of weird games that people have easily missed, I've been playing Folklore lately for PS3.
Oh yeah, that game's the fishing game basically.
Kinda, yeah. That game's actually a lot of fun. The big problem is that there are two characters, and their stories
That's
kind
a problem?
their stories kind of intertwine. The thing is, though, each chapter you play as, like if you play chapter 1 with Ellen, and then chapter 1 with Keats, the dungeons they go through, the layout is 100% identical. It's just like different enemy types. So you're kind of, like not really, but kind of playing the same game twice. And it gets to a point where like if you want to max out your creatures that you capture, the game can get very grindy. Like, you don't have to do that, but it can get very grindy. But I quite like the story. I look forward to see where it's going, and it's another game with a just beautiful aesthetic. Like, it is a gorgeous game, especially for such an early title on the system.
Yeah, it always interested me. It was one of those games that it really does. There really aren't any other games like it. It's very unique.
Not really. Like, this is one of those games where it utilizes the 6-axis. That's what you're talking about with fishing. When it's time to capture a monster, you like jerk the controller up like you're pulling a hook out of the water. I'm perfectly happy to do that, but there are some captures where it's like tilts the controller to like achieve like a balance thing. I don't like that so much. There's another one that's shake the controller furiously. I'm okay with that. Just hold on tight. We don't have a Wiimote strap for the PS3 controller. And finally, there's a timing one where you have to like jerk the controller vertically, like when the light turns green. It's like, okay, I'll do it, I guess. It's not like offensive, but it's like we get it. The 6-axis works,
Yeah. Speaking of like titles that people would go back to and be like, wow, that was pretty weird. Yeah, that's an unusual one. I always kind of wanted to play. It doesn't have like the best ratings in the world, but it's definitely one of those games that people are like, oh yeah, that was an odd game. Rising Zan. Do you remember that game for the PS1?
That was a game that I'd never heard of until I might have mentioned this guy on the podcast before, but there's this one YouTube user, Mike Cobb, where he is just like a god gamer at God Hand. He's the guy who did like a hard run without like taking hits, or like at least a normal run. I think he did normal because he had said that hard is just the same thing, but enemies just take more hits, so it's just more tedious. But he like utterly obliterates God Hand. You watch his reflexes and you don't know how he does it. Same goes for Metal Gear Revengeance. And he did a full playthrough of Rising Zan, mainly because there were aspects of it that seemed to influence like God Hand and Devil May Cry. So yeah. I saw that game, I was like, whoa, I never heard of this. And it turns out Mr. Ryu actually owns it.
Yeah, it's just one of those games that was like off the beaten path, but like everybody that remembers it kind of like has a fondness for it.
It's like God Hand with his personality. Like the gameplay is nothing like God Hand, but it definitely has God Hand's sense of like writing and quirkiness.
Yeah, and that's the reason to play it and buy it and all that jazz, because there's kind of like almost like a spiritual successor, I want to say, like in Samurai Western. Do you remember that game too?
I've heard of it, but that one I have not seen.
I mean, I don't know how related they are, but it certainly feels like they're related. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's just like,
well, is
one
it
had to play into the other.
Is it like Sekiro, where you're like, oh, that could have been a Tenchu game, and it was going to be, but then it wasn't?
Yeah, it's like how many there's some connective tissue. There has to be like
Sure.
some person must have worked on both, or it's like one of those deals.
Like the graphic designer or something like that. It makes me think of this. No one's gonna know what this is, but this is almost like an in joke among like a few of us. But there's this manga called Cyber Blue, I think it's called.
Oh, I don't know this.
And it's just the story is whatever. It takes place in the future. There's some hero who's fighting some bad guy, but like it just so happens that the artist, the person who draws all the art for the manga, is the Hokuto no Ken artist. So
wow, I didn't know that.
It has nothing at all to do with Hokuto no Ken.
But
it's just that
Bronson
everyone looks like they're from Hokuto no Ken.
Yeah, I just love seeing like Hokuto no Ken people like doing normal things.
Actually, you know what I really like? That this is getting off topic, but I like when artists draw other people's art, so you see like their interpretation of it. Like the Hokuto no Ken guy drew like some fan art of like Final Fantasy VI, and it's so interesting to see like him trying not to draw like he's not trying to draw like a Fist of the North Star character as Final Fantasy VI, but like you look at it and you're like, oh, that's definitely the guy who drew Fist of the North Star. It's really interesting to see stuff like that. I love seeing stuff like that.
I would love to see the JoJo guy do that as well.
Yeah, like there's all sorts of potential. It's just really cool. I forgot what it. Oh no, actually the JoJo guy did Naruto art. Like he drew Naruto.
Really?
And you know how weird it looks to see Naruto drawn more realistically with like colors that make no sense, like it was green lips and stuff like that, because that's how JoJo characters just look all the time. I'm like, this is amazing.
and sexy posing.
I don't think he was sexy posing, but he definitely had like a sexy like part 5 or 6 like just like fabulous kind of face. Well, it wasn't fabulous. Well, he had the green lipstick, but like he definitely had a sort of like sexy man look, like every JoJo character looks.
Gotcha. Like just like the pouting lips, like
He
looking
wasn't
up.
pouting, but like he definitely looked very different from his, original intended version from the guy who really draws Naruto all the time. It's just fascinating to see artists draw different artists' work.
Sure. I could get down with that. Yeah, I named most of the ones that I had in mind for this kind of thing. I don't know if you have any others that you particularly
I don't
wanted to
know.
go over.
Crazy action games. I gotta think about stuff like that. Like, I mean, there's a million. I mean, we already mentioned Suda 51 and No More Heroes and stuff like that, where, like, the first non-flashback line in the entire game is "fuckheads." You just bust through a door.
Yeah, No More Heroes is really the like, if you want to be like, okay, this is what they're getting at, like that's another one where it's
actually
just like,
no. You know what? I'll throw out a weird one. It's a little on the nose. Do you remember? But do you remember me?
remember me? No.
Remember me? Because that game, like, it's a standard.
I know of that game, but I've never played it.
It's a standard enough action game. The fight scenes can be pretty fun, and the music's really interesting. The biggest gimmick of the game, though, is that it's all about manipulating memories. The only problem is you only do this yourself, like I think 3 or 4 times in the whole game. But it's really, really cool because you'll watch, like, a flashback, because it's got to be a flashback because it's somebody's memory. You watch a flashback where, like, say somebody gets in a car accident, right? And you're like, wait, what if I go to the memory? Because, like, there's a car accident because somebody dropped their music CD in the car, and they're like, oh shit, and they bend down and pick it up, and then the car crashes, and you're like, you'll watch the car crash, and there are like several objects you can manipulate in the memory, and you're like, what if I move the CD a little back in the seat so it doesn't fall down, and then you let the movie play, and the guy just picks it up, puts it in the CD player, and just drives. So like, you're not changing history, but you're changing someone's perception of it. It's really interesting. One of the things, you don't manipulate the memories yourself, but like, it was such a cool little thing to do for level 1. Like, it's established that there's this like extremely high level bounty hunter coming after you, and she's gonna be like your main rival, and by the end of level 1, you fuck with her memories and she's just an ally, and you're like, oh shit, like, you can really mess around with people in this game. It's really interesting.
I'm sure it goes over the the ethical implications of messing with people like that.
They definitely go in,
Okay.
They go into some of that for sure, because like some of the stuff you use for your benefit or to save your own life, but at the same time, like,
That's somebody else's life, like, you're fucking with.
yeah, like, I mean, there's actually a really fucked up like prison. Like, every once in a while you'll see movies or something that have really crazy interpretations of what like a maximum security prison is. Like, the Chronicles of Riddick Dark Athena game had a fucked up like triple max prison where you're just like in cryostasis except for like a half hour where you can jog around. It's just like, that's intense. But in Remember Me, there's like a prison that's like a memory prison where they just suck out like just about everything you know, and then you're just in a regular cell and you don't fucking know anything, like, who you are or what's going on. And when your sentence is over, they give them back. But like, that's really fucked up. Like, it's creepy.
Wow.
So have fun dealing with that.
Well, I think that do you have any others that you wanted to do a shout out for before we move on?
Well, I'm gonna give you the chance to do a shout out because you know the game better than I do. I haven't actually played it, but you quite liked the Journey to the West, right? What was that? The new game, Enslaved.
Enslaved, yeah. I actually really like that game. I think it's quite good. Yeah.
Like, I gotta try that one out. I've had it for years and I haven't played it.
It has one of the strongest openings of an action game that I've
Okay.
ever played. It's very similar to maybe let's say Uncharted 2. Did you play the beginning of Uncharted 2?
Yeah, I know what you mean with the train. Yeah, I've played all the Uncharted games except for the Vita one.
Okay, you even played the spin-off of the
Yeah,
fourth one?
it was
Okay.
shorter, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I plan on playing that. But so yeah, the beginning of the game, there's like a slave ship that you're on, and it's like literally falling apart while you're trying to get to like um, an escape capsule.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's kind of like Uncharted 2. I kind of see it, and that's kind of like one of the regular escape sequences in like the Tomb Raider reboot. Like shit's falling apart, you have to jump away and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, that it wasn't so common when it came out. So like
Well, yeah. We're talking PS3. Like this was certainly.
yeah, I even think it
Uncharted 2
was
was also
before
PS3, but it was
Uncharted
later.
2. To be honest,
Yeah.
I think it
No,
might.
I think it was. Uncharted 2 was like they came out a little after.
So like I just love that disintegrating.
Oh yeah, I remember you had mentioned before. Like that's one of those. Like I had mentioned, like one thing I really like in video games that's great when you finally get to see it is like when you start with nothing and build up to something. Like you
Yeah.
become like a full commander in Valkyria Chronicles from like not even in the army. And I remember the thing you liked, which you don't see too often, is like escaping from something that's falling apart.
Yeah, I love that, and I also love graveyards. Like when a game definitely references your the carnage that you left behind. Uh, so
Oh.
so they're in Gradius Gaiden, which is the PlayStation Gradius game.
Hmm.
It's probably one of the best in the series. It probably in contention with being the best, other than maybe five. Five's a great game too. But Gaiden, there's one level that is just a graveyard full of broken bosses from previous games. Um,
Oh
like
wow. Okay.
they're literally the ones that the Vic Viper has destroyed in earlier titles. So
That's
like,
cool.
and they're all like misshapen, and they're still dangerous because like parts of them are functional.
Yeah.
So there will be like those the giant core is pretty famous. There are like a few of them in a junk heap, and like a couple of them can actually shoot at you, like, but it can't
Um,
move.
I'm trying to think of games that have done that. Dark Souls 2 kind of does that, believe it or not.
Oh, cool.
Not from Dark Souls 1 so much, but like Dark Souls 2 has a thing where it's like you did this. Wow, what are some other games where well, I guess Metal Gear Solid 4 kind of does this.
Yeah, I would say that too. Definitely with going back to Shadow Moses.
Yeah.
Um,
That
but
wasn't so much like you blew up Shadow Moses or anything, but it's definitely like
it's
remember this.
derelict.
Actually, oh, you know what was great? Dead Space 2. When you finally go back to the Ishimura and it's all like wrapped up and everything, and you're like, whoa, like it's back, but it's a little bit different. Like I do kind of like stuff like that.
Well, that could be a whole podcast in itself. So we might wanna save that one for a
Yeah,
topic for a later
callbacks.
day. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
I think that's gonna be it for me on this topic
sure,
because I,
sure.
I want to move on to our weeklies.
Yeah, okay. So as far as comments are concerned, Norwal Music just throws in a compliment. This is for Old Man Stomp. You'll have to pass it on. Really like your wrestling content. Very nice.
Well,
So
that's good to hear because we don't hear many people talk about the wrestling content, so I always don't know whether people like it or not. I like having it because it's first of all it's not every week, so if it's not your cup of tea, it's not so bad.
yeah,
Um, but also it's something interesting. Like you and I don't like watching wrestling, but we like hearing about
yeah,
it.
it's fascinating hearing about it
Yeah,
because
especially
like
through the lens of somebody as intelligent and poignant as Old Man Stompy.
yeah,
So who has like a really good not only love of the activity and the sport and everything, but also knows a lot of history on it and has a great perspective on life in general. So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
um, I do like hearing that people like it. That's good. That's good.
mm-hmm.
That's what we hope for.
And Trichologist says, I completely forgot to mention Cobra Go. Watch that. And then Tantalus. How could I forget?
Cobra Go. That must be an old anime if I had to.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it's related to Space Adventure Cobra. Then we have General Ledger. Vice, you are not alone. I do the same thing with Oh My Goddess. It's my favorite manga. And what is the same thing? We're going to get to that in the next sentence. I've been rereading it since I was a teen, and I can't get myself to start the final story arc because I don't want it to end. So I guess this is what you were saying about Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah,
Vice?
Cowboy Bebop and Skies of Arcadia and The Sandman have been like my big things that I never wanted to finish. That
the thing with
I
Skies of
always end up
Arcadia,
doing.
like, I know that you've probably by now heard how Cowboy Bebop ends if you haven't actually finished it
Oh no,
yourself.
I finished all three naturally.
Oh, you did finish all three?
Yeah.
I was going to mention Skies of Arcadia. Skies of Arcadia's ending is so damn good.
Oh no,
But anyway,
I made myself beat all three of the things I loved eventually.
excellent. But anyway, Ledger continues. As for other anime I love, Nana, it's a drama perfect for soap opera fans. Bamboo Blade, series that focuses on character growth through the fencing sport. Princess Tutu, excellent love letter to ballet fairy tales. Yeah, I've heard Princess Tutu is brilliant.
Yeah, a lot of people love that one.
Urasawa's Monster, psychological horror / mystery about hunting a serial killer.
Oh, I would like that.
Oh. By Urasawa, it's just called Monster. I've heard of that
you
one.
know what? I read the
I've heard it's
first
fucked up.
7 volumes of Monster, and I just dropped
I hear it's
off.
brilliant.
It was very
brilliant,
good.
yeah.
I just dropped off during it.
And Bunny Drop, a heartwarming father-daughter series at least until the Electra Complex kicks in. Also, for Lupin the Third movies, Dead or Alive is my favorite. It's a solid thriller that shows off all the characters at their best, even Zenigata. Yet the only Lupin I've ever seen was the Miyazaki movie Castle of Cagliostro, which also was very good in its own right.
You know what? I'm a casual Lupin fan, and I love I went through a phase where I was like, I'm gonna watch all the Lupin. Like, there's so much Lupin. Like you could probably never do it because there are 4 series and at least one spin-off with starring Fujiko. That series is really visually stunning. I don't know if you ever saw that. And
there's the PS2 game.
There's the Laserdisc game. I think you're forgetting.
No, I can't forget it because I didn't know it existed.
Yeah, there is a game that takes clips of the Castle of Cagliostro and allows you to play them Dragon's Lair style. It's from the 80s.
That's interesting.
It's called Cliffhanger. They make no reference to the fact that it is a Lupin the Third game other than it's clips of Lupin the Third.
It's Cliffhanger, you said?
Yeah, it's called Cliffhanger, yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, it's from the 80s, so it has no relation to the 90s movie of the same name.
Yeah, I was going to say the video game called Cliffhanger, based on the movie called Cliffhanger, yeah. Alright, so, question. Dracologist asks, if it was possible, which franchise would you like to see some sort of toy or shelf swag? As I said before, I would enjoy actual toy-style Warhammer 40k items, like a Dreadnought or a Terminator. Yeah, it's interesting, because Warhammer is all about the little figures, but they're not meant for, like, toy display, per se. It's more just like the actual strategy game, and if you want to display them, I guess you could. Or the cars from the game Grip, like all capital GRIP, with maybe replaceable rims and tires, or, since the anti-grav update, canards. Or the little power armor from Mother Gunship, with a Lego-style build system where you could stick more and more guns onto the arms. That sounds kick-ass.
So I can answer this in that I was a huge Berserk fan, and I think most of our friend group was. I know Perry was, and you were.
Perry was into it before I was.
I was a big Berserk fan in early college, so early 2000s. 2004 is when I started reading Berserk.
I think Perry introduced me to, like, the 90s anime series in, like, high school or something.
Yeah, so we were all pretty early... I would say pretty early fans for Americans. Let's just put it that way, because the series has been around, since 86?
Yeah, Berserk and JoJo are, like, right about as old as we are.
Yeah. But one has a lot more content.
Berserk has a sizable amount, but yeah, JoJo just steamrolls.
Yeah, but when JoJo gets going, it keeps going, is my point.
Yep.
There might be a hiatus in between, parts, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
But Berserk is a hiatus between chapters.
exactly. It feels like it was no time at all.
Yeah. Oh, that's like the funniest thing. Oh, that's pretty
So,
quick.
what are you doing during your hiatus? Are you taking it easy, like trying to think of new plot,
Well, he's taking it easy
things?
anyway.
No, I'm playing hentai games.
I'm playing Idolmaster.
Ugh. But
Actually, speaking of which, the what was her name? I mean, you read the pirate arc, right, with the giant like whale thing?
oh yeah, I'm up to speed on
Yeah.
the
Well,
American translations of
do you remember that
Berserk.
like siren girl who helped him out, like
Oh yeah.
Isma?
Hmm.
Well, Isma is an anagram of I Mass, like Idolmaster.
Oh jeez. Ugh.
Yeah, so have fun knowing that forever.
Tainted. Um, why'd you do this? Get this trash
Mr. Reed
my
told me, so now you have to feel it too.
out of my awesome stuff. It's like when George Lucas gets his hands on Star Wars at this day and age. Jeez, get your filthy hands off of the thing that you once made good.
Oh.
No, Berserk is still good.
Berserk is still good, I just wish it would fucking exist.
Yeah, so with Berserk, my whole point is that for the longest time there was barely any merchandise to go along with it.
That's true. There's like some.
Well, there's more considering that there have been OVAs and a TV show.
Yeah, but your college is talking about. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so you're saying based on that you can get more merchandise. Yeah, like shelf swag.
So I for a long time wanted more figures. They only put sporadically stuff like that out.
And even then, it's not going to be the weird stuff. Like, I would love a figure of, like, Void or something.
Yeah.
Something weird. Like, not just Guts for the 100th time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, stuff like, Zod, for instance.
Yeah, that's true. They probably have, like, Zod, but, like, I don't know how much of them they have. Zod's freaking cool.
How about you? What do you think?
Oh, man. This is a little hard for me, because, like, JoJo has 1 million figures. Even American McGee's Alice has some swag, surprisingly. Actually has a bunch of old figures from the first game. I don't know. Anything off of a video game I would like or whatever? I mean, usually I just like soundtrack CDs. I'm not really a big shelf swag person normally. Like, I got some JoJo figures in my dresser. Like, in the videos I have, you could tell that much. But, like...
You know what would be really cool?
If there were toys or props or something, like, I gotta think about it. But yeah, what?
I would like a little Mr. Gimmick.
Really I can see that.
Yeah.
He's amusing.
I would like to have him like on a little standee.
Actually, you know what would be kind of cool is Axel, Blaze, and Adam from Streets of Rage 1, like figures of them or something.
Yeah, that would be really neat. I never really thought about that.
That'd be kind of like that would just be interesting. Like, other than maybe T-shirts, I'm not sure Streets of Rage even has swag, and even the T-shirts are like I think Sega might have some, but I think otherwise most of what you're gonna get is gonna be like fan made.
How about I would really like an action figure of some of the GGs from Jet Set Radio, especially Beat.
Yeah, I mean the best you're gonna do for Beat, as far as I'm aware. I don't know if there's regular swag of him, but there's like the first 4 figures Beat, but like those figures are high quality, but they're really expensive.
I didn't know they existed.
Oh, first 4 figures F4F. Yeah, they make extremely high quality limited run figures of insert video game character here, but they're like $500-$600, so they're way up there, but like they're really cool. Like they've made Ornstein and Artorias from Dark Souls and look cool as shit, but like they're so expensive though. I would love to have them, but they're so expensive.
Wow, they even have some Castlevania ones. Jesus, I didn't even know
that. They run a whole gamut. They have Vice. You know, it's pretty awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And they also occasionally make like special versions of their characters. So like the special version of Vice has like a flag that you could like take out of his hand. It's pretty cool. They made a Mimic from Dark Souls, which is creepy because if you remember what the Mimic looks like from that game.
Sure.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it. The definitive edition. Look at this.
That's exactly it. By the way, they also have Sif. Sif is gigantic. By the way, as a callback to what I was talking about with GDQ in Recon this week, the GDQ guy who did Dark Souls 1 blew my mind with something I never knew, and I've beaten Dark Souls like 6 times, is that you can, if you have the spell for it, you can put a mimic to sleep, and it'll just like open its mouth just like when it's sleeping, and you can just see the item that you would get from it, like inside it, and you just take it. Like, I had no clue about this.
Wow. Huh.
Like, I love little weird quirks like that.
Yeah. Huh. And any others that you could really think of at this point?
One thing, again, I don't know if this quite answers Drakeologist's question about shelf swag specifically, but I tend to be a sucker for maps or books. So if you could do a map or book of an in-game thing, like a Final Fantasy VI world map, like that kind of thing, or like a Link to the Past world map. I think that they actually released a Link to the Past world map. I think that actually came with the game anyway. But like stuff like that is really cool. Like, I actually, even though I'm not really particularly interested in playing the Elder Scrolls games, I actually got the PC box set of like the 5 games back in the day, because it came with maps for each game, and that's just really cool to me. Or books. Again, if there's a book like of like the one thing I was flipping out for that America I don't think is really going to get quite in the form I expect. But remember how I mentioned before that you know how we got the Dark Souls trilogy like all in one little box set?
Sure.
And like a steelbook? Japan got like a stupidly expensive mega collector's edition that came with like bookends and 3 books, and each book contained every like item in the game and all the flavor text. So it's kind of a lore book in and of itself. I wish America got that. I think Future Press is doing like a compendium of that, so we're kind of going to get it. So I'm happy about that. One thing I was really excited about to get the chance to get was like one of the last times I went to New York Comic Con. This was a long time ago. This was when Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch was new. I was at the Namco Bandai booth, and they were selling that game along with the Wizards Compendium. So I picked that up, and like that was super cool, because like the Wizards Compendium is a thing you could look up in the game, but if you just have it right there with you, it's a rare case where having the physical swag actually makes the game more playable. Like, for example, do you know Firewatch on PC?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So again, a gimmick with that game is there's no like regular in-game map. Like, your character pulls up a map, but like it's just a map. You don't see your exact location on it. You have to kind of read the map. The game gets more playable if you get the limited run games collector, like physical edition, because it comes with the in-game map. So you don't have to stop the game to look at your map. You can just look at your map. Like, I like cool little stuff like that.
Now that makes me think of the actual Neko, the Enter the Gungeon Ammonomicon.
Oh, the Ammonomicon, yeah.
Yeah, the Ammonomicon.
That's also really
that
cool. I mean,
that's
not going to help you.
But I want there to be a complete one that will go along with the update.
Yeah, there's one more
the final
DLC.
Update. Yeah,
it would be cool if Special Reserve releases like an updated edition or something. Also, I think Fangamer, I don't quite know what's in this, but Fangamer released for Hollow Knight like a Wanderer's Journal, so I'm curious to see what's in that.
Huh. That's neat. Mm-hmm. I think we answered these pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I'm not really so much into figures anymore. Like, I like my JoJo stuff, but I don't know if there are any like figures of game characters I'd like. Maybe, like, I mean, what Drakeologist said with like a Lego thing, like for the Mother Gunship. If there's like Lego versions of toys or stuff like that, I can certainly see that. I just can't think of anything quite off the top of my head right now. But like, I always love Lego, so I can certainly see a thing like that being like just fun to have.
I would like a Lotus Prince commemorative ceramic pin.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like plate. my favorite.
I would like plate, actually.
Actually, you know, one thing I do have that I actually do quite like is this was, I think it was for Madness Returns. I have a Vorpal Blade letter opener.
Oh, neat.
It's just kind of cool. It's a letter opener that looks like Alice's freaking knife weapon. It's like, yes.
No, that is cool.
Yeah.
All
Now I
right.
can open letters with my fucked up and twisted dark side of my imagination. Hooray!
Lotus, nobody sends you letters.
That's true. Actually, one last thing I could... Oh, actually, you know what? This one is low-hanging fruit, and I totally missed it. The Tome of Eternal Darkness.
Hmm.
From Eternal Darkness.
There you go.
That'd be rad.
Be hard to read that.
It probably would, and I get the feeling I would probably lose a little bit of sanity if I tried.
Just a little.
And then, I would probably be the next entry in the book. I don't know if I want that.
You might need to reset.
Yeah. Deep into that darkness, peering. This isn't happening!
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap things up for this week. I certainly want to thank Trichologist and all of our other fans for contributing questions. We do need more. By the way,
I was just going to say, speaking of which, shout out to Insane Buffoon because they provided several questions.
Oh, they've always been very good about that. So I really do appreciate that. So we do need as many as we could get, though, and we always like to hear new voices as well. So we know that you're out there. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting your own on the YouTube and Soundcloud pages. Plus, we give plenty of shout-outs to our fans that interact to us. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Of course, that's if you want to actually associate with us. Cherish the thought. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Battle.net, and Switch.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or get involved in a conversation with me, conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
All right, everybody. Well, we'll see everybody for a fresh episode of Reactive on Tuesday.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.